All right, everybody, back with another one. Today we have a special guest joining us. Our guest, Anthony Volpe, is a plumber from Connecticut. He is an expert in his trade, working in both residential and commercial, and he is going to talk about his experience today with getting into the plumbing industry and going through the schooling process and then a little bit about his career life. We're going to learn about what it's like to get into that trade, which is something that is still very much in high demand. That definitely needs a lot of people to move into that industry because not as many people, as discussed on previous episodes, are getting into the plumbing industry. And a lot of the trades themselves, instead looking to do more like tech driven jobs and office jobs and things like that, which are not enough available for every single person coming out of, high school and the youth of America, especially Gen Z. So we are going to need tradesmen, and a lot of these trades are sort of a dying art because they are something that less and less people are going to know in the future, but they're so necessary. The demand is still there, and robotics and AI and the tech future that we're headed into are not up to par and probably won't be for a very long time for them to be able to replace a tradesman like a plumber, which is a super necessary career still now and will be definitely for the foreseeable future, at least the next 25, 30 years until technology gets to a certain point where maybe some things could be eliminated or offset to robotics. But for now, it's a great career to get into. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at what he has to say, and he's going to explain why maybe if you're the type of person that's graduating high school and you're not looking to go to college, you're looking to get into the trades, he'll give you his take on his career field, and maybe that's an option for you. So without further ado, our guest, Anthony. Yeah, and the forgiveness rate, I think it's like less than 10% of people who
That's ridiculous.
actually get their loan forgiven because but it takes them like 20 years, so like they have to show they've made nothing of their lives for 20 years. Like they've literally worked like very low end jobs and they have
Yep.
absolutely no chance of paying this debt down, you know?
Well, that's where
So
going to trade school comes into play because guess what? I went to trade school for 4 years and I came out with 0 debt.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And you cash flowed that, right? Like you paid it
Yep.
as you went because you were working, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. So, they went by the class when I was going to school. It was $100 per class. So 20 classes. You have to take 20 classes over a 4-year span. So $100 a class. What's that? $2,000 for 4 years of school?
So let's get into that. We'll start with that. So your initial schooling, you get out of high school and you go straight to, I mean, I know obviously you didn't, but for the audience, you go straight to plumbing school, let's say. You do like a preliminary plumbing school, you have to do 2 years of college for an associate's. What does that look like when you get out of high school?
No, you can go straight to plumbing school. You don't have to get an associate's, nothing like that. You can go sign up and you can go right to plumbing school. Some plumbing schools are like a 1-year program where you're in school for the whole year, 5 days a week, and then you get it all done within a year of schooling. That's it. And then other plumbing programs, you do it as you work and you go all 4 years as you work, you go to school at nights. So by the time let's say you graduate high school when you're 18 years old, you'll be 22 years old, done with school, getting ready to get your license.
So I remember, does it normally take 5 years or 4 years?
4 years. 4 years,
Okay.
depending on the state. Most states are 4, some states are 5.
Okay. Did you end up doing 5 for your state? Because I know you said your state's the hardest to get your plumbing license in.
No, we actually, it was a 4-year apprenticeship. 4-year apprenticeship, 4 years of school in my state. Then they tried to change it to a 5-year apprenticeship and a 5-year schooling, but then that never went through.
Okay. And so also, so walk through that too. Like, what is plumbing school like when like
God.
your first year, what are you learning? Then your second year, what are the things that you're learning that are harder from your first year? Like, walk us through the 4 years.
Well, first of all, plumbing school, you're going to school with a bunch of grown men who work for a living, so it's not your typical schooling experience. You know, it's mostly at nights, and these guys all coming to school dirty, covered in crap, sitting in the classroom, you know what I mean? Shooting the
I
shit.
guess some of those people are people who are doing like career change or career advancement because they're not coming out of high school at that point. They're probably guys who were working a trade job before and then decided, you know what, let me commit to being a plumber. I'll make more money.
100%. I was one of, like, maybe 3 of the youngest guys in my class when I was going to plumbing school, you know, trade school. There was a bunch of 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, you know, guys going to get their license that have been in the field for a very long time. They just never got licensed.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
It's
that's so
interesting.
interesting too, because it's like, it just goes to show the younger generation that we're talking to today, if they would just go straight out of high school, they're not going to be the guys going back at 40 to get their plumbing license to advance their career
Exactly.
life.
Exactly, and when you get a license, you're automatically worth more, you know? It's like a whole different ballgame. You can get paid such amount of money, then you get your license, then bump up, you know?
And also too, like when you don't have your license, you're just kind of considered like a handyman. You're not really considered a plumber, are you?
Nah, no, you're not really considered a plumber. You're considered a glorified apprentice at that point, you know? It's like
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
doing good, you know, this and that, but no, your work means nothing without a license backing it up, you know? Someone they can come after you. There's so many different negative things that could happen not having a license.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a huge problem. But so what's the first year look like? What are you learning?
First year, you're learning all intro classes, intro to math, intro to plumbing, intro to code, stuff like that. It's very basic stuff, very
Well, when
basic
you say
math,
code,
geometry, stuff like that.
you mean like township codes and city codes and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Well, international IPC, International Plumbing Code.
Okay. Some of the younger
So
generation probably
there's
thinks that means like computer program codes.
but yeah, no, no, we're talking plumbing code, rules, regulations, what you can do, what you can't do. You know, it's basically your Bible. You have to know that thing front to back, cover to cover, paragraph to paragraph. You know. A lot of laws, a lot of regulations. There's a lot of stuff that you gotta abide by, you gotta do within a certain limit, but plumbing code is bare minimum. So whatever it is, you do the bare minimum.
And so what about the math? Are you learning algebra? Are you learning like, crazy math that you couldn't stand in high school? Or are you learning,
No,
what are you learning math wise?
very basic math. It's a basically an intro to math course, which I think is more of they have to fit it in for the curriculum. It doesn't really apply to plumbing. You know what I mean? You just
Yeah, it's
have
like
to take this math course as a first year.
they just want to make
It's
sure
a joke.
you know how to do math.
It's like freshman year of high school math, or not even maybe. I would compare it to like maybe even 7th, 8th grade math. You know what I mean? It's
Okay,
very basic of course.
gotcha. So then what's the second year look like? What are you learning?
Second year, well, it all depends. You kind of pick your own classes as you go. So second year would be second year code classes. So you got 4 year code classes. Your first year, you got plumbing code 1, plumbing code 2, plumbing code 3, plumbing code 4. So that would be, you know, as you go on throughout your 4 years. So basically, you're learning more about code. I'm trying to think and remember, man, what other classes we took.
Are you memorize like how many codes do you have to memorize throughout your whole plumbing school career? Like how
Oh,
much
hundreds.
like hundreds of codes? And it's like, would you say it's like how much reading? Are we talking like, you know, one big textbook that you got to work through your whole 4 years there? Or are you talking like tons of books that you have to get through like as though you're going to
No, no,
college?
oh no, 2 books, two, 3 books tops. You know what I mean? You have your plumbing code book. Whatever year you're going to school, you get that year that you want because every year the codes change. Okay. Usually they go within like when I was going to school it was in like 2017. No, it was before that. 2014, 2015, and we were studying out of the 2010 code book.
Okay.
So you need a code book, which everyone should have. You know, every plumber should have a code book, and you need a fuel code book. That's it. 2 books throughout your whole career of plumbing
Yeah, see, that's
school.
such an important point that like I don't ever see anybody touch on because I know a lot of young people don't want to go to college for different reasons. And a lot of times they decide to get into the trades because they figure, they don't want to go to college and have to do all the reading and all the learning of like, a lot of stuff that's probably going to be useless. And also, constantly have to have all these different textbooks and go through all this crap. And it's good you're saying you need like 2 or 3 books. And as long as you can get through those and study the hell out of them, you'll know pretty much what you need to carry you out through your career.
Exactly. 100%. And then you take that with you after school and you have it in your truck with you. So if you're ever on a job and an inspector comes up to you and they start questioning something, you could refer to your code book like, "Oh, no, you're wrong," you know, which is what some of our favorite things to do, by the way. Love putting inspectors in their place.
Yeah. And it's good too, because like probably every few years they update the code book with like whatever new stuff they added, and then you probably just get a copy of that, and now you just find out whatever the new
Well,
stuff
no,
is.
here's the catch about that now. Every other year after you get your license, so every odd year for a P2, which is a journeyman, that's your basic plumbing license, you have to go to continuing education.
Mhm.
It's one Saturday, 6 hours every other year, and they go over all the plumbing code change, anything that may be coming up that's gonna affect your life, stuff like that. They just basically go over what's gonna be different moving forward, and that's every
Yeah,
other year as
whatever changes they made, whatever regulations they added, things
Yep.
like that, right?
Well, it's funny you said they just send you something, that's what they used to do. They used to just send you something in the mail, and then you read it, and you signed it, and you sent it back, but now, of course, they gotta make money, so they charge you $125 to go sit down in this course for 6 hours. At least they feed you pizza and drinks, though, so it's nice.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
A
it's not
lot of
bad.
other continuing education classes for other jobs is nothing like that. So that's kinda cool. It's like a little bit of a,
Nah,
you know,
it's nice, and then your
relaxed
teachers are
setting.
usually guys that you work with out in the field. You see these guys, like, I walk into my plumbing code class, not code class, my continuing education class, and "Hi, Volpe," I sit down, I bullshit with him for a little bit, and I'm out the door before anybody else because he knows me. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. So it's like you're working with you're not like, going to some random thing, you're with your peers.
You're with your peers, man. And when
Yeah,
you're in this trade, everybody knows everybody. It's like a brotherhood. It's like a brotherhood.
that's cool. And so, we'll get into those questions later, but so then take us through the rest of the schooling. So like 2 to 4, those years, what's that like?
Man,
What are you learning? What gets harder, as you're going through the schooling? What's some of the hardest stuff that you had to like, train your brain to remember or figure out?
that's not really like that. You don't really go. It's not set up where you go and you got to take midterms or you got to take one final test at the end in order to pass and everything like that. It's basically code and basically just being taught from a bunch of guys that are out there in the trades and stuff like that. It's not really it's not hard. It's not a hard program to get through, you
Good.
know?
Yeah, that's good.
And you
That's
can
appealing
kind of
to the,
choose as you go.
what was that last part?
I said you could choose as you go. So nothing's really set up. When I was going to school, they had 20 classes. Okay. And what you did was you went to sign up for school, you had to pick 4 classes a year. Nothing was really in order. You know what I mean? I could have took plumbing code 4 my first year as a plumbing code 1 guy.
Oh, okay.
But you go basically in the order, but it's everyone's different. Like I have an apprentice now who goes to school at nights and it's set up like your basic school now. He's got to take tests and he's got to do this and he's got to do that. We never had that. There was none of that with us.
Oh, okay, so they changed it a little bit.
Yeah, things have definitely changed quite a bit. 'Cause, I'm going on 10 years now having my license, so it's a different game now. School was more of a hangout spot for us to just bullshit, talk, and just a bunch of grown men talking about work. And yeah, we learned what we had to learn, but where you really learn is in the field. You know what I mean? You need the classroom hours, which is, I believe, is 720 hours of total class time in order to get your license.
Okay. And, when you're in the school, or I know you're in, obviously we'll get to the apprentice thing in a minute, but when you're in the school, are you also doing hands-on stuff? Like, are they giving you pipes? Are they showing you how to like connect them? Are they doing things like that? Or is that stuff you only do in the field and the school is just designated for picking up a book and taking tests?
It depends on the school. Depends on the school. Like when on my school, we didn't have that. It was a night program. It was all just theory, talking, studying, stuff like that. But there are schools like another guy that works for me. He went to a school where he walked in the first day and they had a whole bag of tools sitting there waiting for him. That was part of you going to schools. So, it's depending on where you go to school, everything's different. So some schools are very hands-on. They get right in there. They teach you how to solder. They teach you how to, put pipes together with glues and stuff like that. And then other schools, you go there, you learn, and then you learn in the field when you're working.
Cool. So then tell me about the apprenticeship. So now you go into school, but part of the requirement is you have to be an apprentice, which means you have to basically get hired by a plumbing company and you work as an assistant to a plumber for a while, right?
Yep. 4 years. 4 years, 2,000 hours a year. So it's 8,000 hours over 4 years as an apprentice. And you'll be under a journeyman licensed plumber for those 4 years, working alongside him, learning the trade, trying to, you never master the trade until you get older, you know what I mean? But you're trying to learn as much as you can in order to get you to that point where you're ready to take your license.
Yeah. And you said that's about 8,000 hours total?
8,000 hours total. You got 8,000 hours OJT, which is on job training. And that's, 2,000 a year goes towards your hours. So, and then after the 4 years, when you have your 8,000 hours and you have your 700 and something hours of school, you can qualify to take the state licensing test.
Okay. Yeah, it's good because they say, the old adage is like it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at any skill. So if you're doing it in 8, that's pretty cool.
Well, 8,000 hours is to get your P2, which is your journeyman license, right?
Okay.
And then after you get that, you have to work in the field for another year, which is another 2,000 hours. And then you get your master license. So it's actually a 10,000
So okay,
hour
so
program to
it
get your
checks out pretty
master
much.
plumbing license.
Gotcha.
That's
And that's what
exactly
you
right.
have, right?
I don't have my master license. I have my journeyman license. Master license now is the only difference between a master's and a journeyman's is one, you can own a business, one, you can't.
Okay. Are you on that path or you're not interested because you're not looking to own a business?
Oh no, 100% I'm on that path. 100%
Okay.
I'm on that path.
Gotcha.
Definitely want to take that test. It's a very hard test, very, very hard test, but it's worth it.
What makes it so much harder than getting through plumbing school and taking that final test
Well, because
for the
in
journeyman?
plumbing school, you're learning plumbing and you're doing it every day of your life. Now, as far as the P1 goes now, getting your master license, you got to know business. You got to have some kind of
Yeah.
basic business, yep, there's a whole business side to the test.
So now, 2 questions on that. Number 1 is that's good that they teach. So that's more focused on turning your career into a business for yourself if you wanted to go that
Yes,
direction. And so that's a little bit harder because now you have to factor in learning about how to run a business as well. The question
absolutely.
I have is then when you get out of that and now you have your master license, if you don't decide to open up your own business and you decide to work for somebody, does that carry a higher salary? Or
Oh,
that's just
100%.
really for if you want to open up your own business as a plumber?
No, no, no. It definitely carries a higher value. You don't have to open up a business with that license. You could work for a company. And then what they'll do is you're valued higher so they could actually use your license for their company. Like there are plumbing businesses out there that are not owned by plumbers, but they have guys with P1s working for them. And that's all they need.
To allow them to technically be a plumbing
And
company and
lead their
work
business.
on. Yeah, see,
100%.
that's an interesting thing because that actually leads to 2 things for the younger generation that we're talking to today. Number 1 is if you do want that master license, but you're the type that actually doesn't want to have your own business, you like working for other people because you want, like, at the end of the day, you want your work to be done. You don't want to be working 24/7 running your company. You could get that master license and make more money and not have to open up your own business. So that license is not just for people looking to open up their own plumbing business. It's also a way for them to make more money in their career long term if they just invest a little bit more in their education.
Absolutely. 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 But a majority of guys who get their P1 open up businesses, and the majority of guys who don't want to open up businesses never get their P.
Gotcha.
But a lot of guys do. Like I have personal friends that do not want to go into business. They don't want the headaches, they don't want the stress. They got their P1s, but they're sitting at desk positions, you know what I mean? They're setting up $1,000,000 jobs and they have crews of guys working underneath them. So there is some benefits of doing it and not having a business. You're valued higher in a company.
So I guess it would make you be able to, it would open you up for a management position at a plumbing company, like a big plumbing company, where maybe there's like a bunch of plumbers. They need somebody to lead that team of plumbers. So they go with the guy who has the master license. He doesn't go out in the field
Absolutely.
anymore and work on people's, plumbing, but instead he runs the plumbing team.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So he'll go out, do all the estimating, do all the everything, and then getting the crew set up, doing the selling, doing all that kind of stuff.
So that's cool too for people who are like, I like plumbing, I want to get into that trade, but I don't want to do the actual manual labor forever. I want to be the
Exactly.
guy who maybe gets the cushy desk job, makes more money, but I still get to be in the trade.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. And I got a good friend I went to trade school with. The kid is one of the best hands-on plumber I've ever seen in my life. And now he's at a point in his life where he's married and he wants to, sit back. And he got his P1, and now he has a nice cozy desk job. He's making over $200,000 a year. Leading a team of plumbers, and he wears a suit and tie to work every day, pretty much. Not a suit and tie, but dresses nice. He's in
Yeah, dress,
khakis
yeah,
and a button-up shirt, stuff like that. His hands don't get dirty no more.
like business casual, but he's not wearing like, plumbing, whatever you call
Shit
that
pants.
uniform.
Oh yeah, not wearing the typical uniform.
Yeah. But that's cool. So that's good. And then the other thing is it brings up a good point for younger people too who are thinking maybe I want to own a business. I like the plumbing trade because it's, a necessity. It's going to be around forever. We're always going to need that. And there's a lot more demand than there is supply, but they also don't want to become a plumber themselves. They can just buy a company or start a company, hire a licensed plumber, and then they don't actually have to be a licensed plumber to own and run that company.
100%. 100%. As long as they have a P1 in the company, they could have the company.
That's another good thing for younger people trying to figure out what they want to do when they get out of high school. Obviously, you're not going to buy a plumbing company when you're out of high school, but it's just something to think about for your future.
Well, definitely. Definitely. If you can invest in a plumbing company and not have to be the plumber itself doing all the work, you're already ahead of the game because there's a lot of money in plumbing. A
Yeah.
lot of money.
Yeah,
Definitely. A lot of
finger on
overhead,
the
a lot of
camera.
headaches, a lot of insurance and stuff too, but there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah, so that's good. So that's all good stuff for the youth, definitely so then our next few questions would be what does first of all the P1 license for a master plumber, that's national? That's the same license in every state? Obviously just different testing, but it's the same one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And then, there's other avenues. So, like when you do go into plumbing, it's not just working in, residential where you work in people's homes. There is also another avenue called commercial where you could get into working on, you know, commercial buildings, like an office building or a shopping center, retail, things
Oh
like
yeah.
that. So there's other avenues in plumbing too.
New construction, you could be a guy that goes in and fixes stuff in people's houses all day long, which is called a service plumber. You go in, you service, you do water heaters, you fix pipes, you do bathroom remodels, you do kitchen remodels, stuff like that. And then you could go into another part of the field where you're a new construction guy. All you do is new buildings. New developments, new housing, stuff like that. Or you could be a commercial plumber where you just work in big, gigantic skyscrapers and work on all kinds of big equipment and stuff like that, which is what I don't. I don't do any of that. But there's so many different sides to it. There's so many different worlds in plumbing.
And I'm guessing the new development is probably the cushy job when it comes to plumbing because all of the pipes and everything are brand new, right?
Everything's brand new. You're in a brand new house. Everything's from scratch. You got a blueprint in front of you, and it's funny. There's a whole war between new construction guys and service guys. They always say, "Who's the real plumbers?" Obviously, the service guys are the real plumbers. We get our hands dirty every day of the week. These guys just drill holes and run pipe all day long.
Yeah.
We
And
always
everything's
say,
brand spanking new.
brand new. They don't
So it's
get
all clean,
dirty.
it's
They
all
don't.
beautiful.
Yep. Yep. In a new house, it's good. It's good. You don't have to get dirty. You don't have to really think. You know what I mean? As a service plumber, you got to go in, you got to think. You got to say, okay, how am I going to solve it? First of all, what is the problem? I have to diagnose the problem. I have to find the problem first. All right. Then I got to figure out how the hell I'm going to fix it efficiently at a reasonable rate in the world that we live in with people. You know what I mean? And then you have people standing on top of you 24/7, asking you 100,000 questions as you're trying to work because, you're in their home. It's a whole different type of pressure.
Yeah. Now, see, that's good because it raises a point for like, even some young people who are like, I like the idea of plumbing. I like working with my hands. I like doing cool things like that, working with pipes and stuff. But I'm not crazy about the whole working with like, you know, human excrement and things like that. So I want to find a way to do this job, but do it in a little bit of a cleaner capacity. New
100%.
development, new construction seems like it would be perfect for somebody like that.
100%. 100%. New construction. And then new construction is really good for any plumber to start because you get a basic layout of how it all goes down. You get a basic
Hmm.
layout of how it's going to look in the walls. So basically, if you start as a new construction plumber, it only betters you as a service plumber in the future.
Because you get to see the skeleton of like how everything looks when it's all put in brand new. And then when you're
Exactly.
later on diagnosing problems, you could kind of envision where everything would be behind the walls and in the ground.
1,000%. How it's ran, how it's going. Okay, let me think. This is how it's probably going like this. So yes, yep, absolutely. I recommend everybody works for a new construction company for at least a year. You know what I mean? Get in, do new construction, do roughs, do houses, do buildings, do condos, do apartments, because you really learn the trade right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what's cool too. There's so many avenues in plumbing. Like you said, new construction, new development. You got apartment buildings, you got all those other commercial properties that I mentioned, and then residential houses, and then there's, big buildings and stuff like that, working in like a skyscraper. So give like a rundown of some of the types of jobs that you do, changing out water heaters and things like that. What is a typical week, not even just day, but like week of a plumber look like on average? What type of jobs are you doing?
Oh man, for my company, for instance, I'm starting a gym now. Okay. We're a service company. We go in and we do water heaters, we do toilets, we fix pipes that are leaking, open ceilings, fix drain pipes, bathtub snaking. We snake and clear drains. And then I'm doing a gym, go in, brand new gym, just being built. So and you run all the rough plumbing for it, all the drains. So typical week could start off going to somebody's house on a Monday, changing a water heater and then afterwards going and snaking a drain, and then Tuesday you're in a gym doing a whole different thing than what you did the day before. You know what I mean? But my typical week is usually I'm in and out of people's houses all day long and I'm fixing stuff, fixing toilets or putting new toilets in a bathroom remodel, stuff like that.
What are the most amount of type of calls you get?
Clog drains.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Clog drains. Clog drains are some of the highest volume calls that we get.
Because I know there are some plumbing companies that are just dedicated to all they do all day long is snake drains every day, right?
Yeah, well, see, there's snaking companies that only snake drains and they can't do anything else. So you don't need a license to snake drains. And that's where the whole dilemma comes in with plumbers now. Most guys who have a plumbing license will look down on snaking drains. They'll say, I have a license. I don't have the snake drains. I
Right. That's
call
like
those
the
guys assholes.
basic level plumbing is snake in a drain, right?
You pretty much, it takes a little bit of time to learn and stuff like that, but that's a basic level. You don't need a license to do it. And you could start a business snaking drains without getting a plumbing license. You know what I mean? So if you wanted to go that route in life, so most licensed plumbers will not pick up a snake and snake drains. They feel it is beneath them. I call those guys assholes because there's money to be made in it. Just
Yeah.
get in there and snake the drain.
Well, like I said, that's easy money too. When you run a plumbing company, like any business, any little job you can get that's quick money that you can squeeze in between other jobs is just a
Absolutely.
great thing to do because it's just fast money that you get in and out and you're on to the next job, but you made a couple extra bucks for the day.
You're usually in a house for a drain, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes to get set up, do the snaking, clean up, write the bill up, get done, and leave. Oh, half hour, 45 minutes, you're making a couple hundred extra bucks snaking a drain. Why not? You know? Why it's a little dirty, it's a little messy. It could get, smelly and nasty and you get stuff on you, but you know what? You're a plumber. Deal with that. You know what? It's just the
Yeah,
way it
yeah,
goes.
yeah. Hopefully, the younger generation, some of them are not as soft as the others, that they would be interested in this. Tell me, without being graphic or too graphic, just what's some of the, because I want to keep this balance where it's both sides, not just all glamorous.
Sure, sure, sure.
What is some of the most difficult things you deal with in this industry, and what's like some of the worst jobs you've been on?
Oh man, so one of the most difficult things in this industry, especially being a service plumber, is you see all walks of life. So you're walking into a house that's $1 million mansion, beautiful. You can eat off the floors, and then you're walking into houses that are stacked to the ceiling with garbage, hoarders, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's more like, walking in people's houses. As far as the trade goes, the worst stuff I've seen is people's basements just filled with sewage. Stuff coming in,
yeah,
filling
like a
up, and it's just
backup, like or a sewer pipe broke or
absolutely.
something, right? Yeah,
Yep, pipes broken or a pipe broke in the street and it let go and it flooded the whole someone's basement out, and it's you see some horrific stuff,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
without a
Yeah, and
doubt.
that
So it's
comes with
not all
the
rainbows and sunshine, that's for sure.
well, it is plumbing. It's a dirty job like anything else that's in the trades, but you get through it, I guess, right?
Absolutely, and it doesn't have to be a dirty job. So you can do jobs like that. I do jobs like that. I'll go into basements that are filled with sewage, and we'll snake the drain, and we'll get a cleanup crew in to clean it up and all that. But you could also sit on a site all day and run pipe. You could do that your entire career as a plumber. You don't have to be a service guy if you don't want to. You know what I mean? Oh, you could join a union. That's another thing I wanted to touch on. I didn't
Yeah,
really talk about. You could you get into a union, you're set for the rest of your life.
yeah. Why is that? Explain a little bit about that.
Those guys get paid top dollar. Okay, they have amazing benefits, unbelievable benefits, and pretty much in the union, you're doing the same thing all the time, every day. So if you're a pipe layer in the union, that's what you do. You're a pipe layer. So you're not going to learn every other aspect of plumbing. I know guys who have been in the union for 25 years that cannot put a water heater in, but they could run water lines all day long better than anybody can in a 25-story skyscraper building.
Yeah, well, if you do one thing all the time, you become a master at it.
That's it. You become a master at it, you know what I mean? And that's what those guys usually do, and you make good money. It's you work an hour, you take a break. You work an hour, you take a break. You work an hour, you take a break. You know what I mean? You're making $85 an hour.
So that's another thing I
Union
want to touch
rates.
on at some point soon is salaries, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For the union stuff, is that something that most plumbers work towards or no? What does that look like? Are most plumbers non-union? Are most plumbers union? And how does that whole dynamic look?
That's a tough question. A lot of guys like I can only speak from my personal experiences. Like when I went to school, there was a handful of guys out of like maybe 40, 50 guys that I was going to school with that ended up going into the union. And it's basically they knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody and they're in the union. You know what I mean? Most guys don't look towards going towards the union. You know what I mean? Most guys are just working for companies and doing their thing. I guess it depends on the individual, really.
So is that something
Me
that seems
personally,
unattainable
I would
for
never
most
be in a
people?
union. What's
You've
that?
never what? Say that last part?
I said, me personally, I would never be in a union. I like working for, small mom and pop companies, and I like doing all kinds of different plumbing and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to be tied down to just doing one thing all the time.
Yeah. And so is that something that most people think is out of reach because it's kind of like a club you have to get in, or is it something that just given enough time on the job and applying to get into a union, eventually you'll get in?
You can absolutely. It can go either way. You know what I mean? Like if you give it enough time, you have enough knowledge, you could apply and you could eventually get in. Definitely helps to know somebody, you know. But I got a perfect example. A buddy of mine, one of his best friends is at Sparky. He's an electrician, and kid worked for a company for years and years and years, licensed, and he decided like, I want to get a union job. So he applied, and it took about 6 to 8 months, but they ended up hiring him, and he just started this week. Now he's a union electrician, and he's like, it's a whole different world, man. He's like, these guys are telling me every second to slow down. You're working too fast. Slow down, calm down, relax, relax. Making 85, $90 an hour doing it, you know? So you don't have to necessarily know somebody, but you may have to wait a little bit longer if you do.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that the union workers tend to act that way? In all the trades, it seems to be a similar commonality between them. They all seem to sort of play this game where they run out the clock and they try to drag out a job for as long as possible. Is it because they stretch out their pay or is it because of other factors?
I think it's a little bit of both, you know? It's like they want to stretch out their pay, plus they know they're protected pretty much against anything. You know, unions are they're tough, man. Once you get in, it's hard to get fired out of a union. You know, it's you'd have to really f up to be let go or fired or something like that. You're protected. You're backed. You have representatives in the union looking out for you. You know what I mean? So these guys milk that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
In my opinion, of course. In my opinion, you know what I mean? That's just in my days of doing it is what I've noticed and seen how people are. So
Yeah, so those are the benefits of being in a union, which is you're protected, you get nice benefits, you get higher pay, you get to be in like maybe some cushier jobs and some of the other non-union jobs. What are some of the downsides of being in a union?
huh. I guess doing the same thing every single solitary day, you know? You'll be
Okay.
on a job sometimes that could be 3 years long, and you're in that building for 3 years, no matter how you look at it, and if it's 2 hours away from your house, guess what? You gotta get up and drive 2 hours every single day and go to that job, you know? Dad,
You
nope,
got
you go. What were you gonna ask me?
no, no, finish that thought.
I was gonna say I honestly cannot remember what I was gonna say. I don't really
You're
know
driving
enough
like
about
2
the
hours
union.
to a job. If it's out of the way, you have to go because you're in the union.
Yep, you're a union guy. You sometimes you get them out of state, and you gotta drive out of state, and you gotta, stuff like that too. It all depends.
Yeah,
I don't
so
really I don't have anything too negative to say about the union because I don't really know too much, I've never worked in it or done it before, so I really don't know, you know?
right, right. And so what about if you joined a union, but you decided, you know what, it's not for me. I like being non-union. Can you go back or are you sort of stuck?
No, it's like the mafia, man. Once you're in for life. No, I'm only joking, but I'm sure you can. I'm sure you could get out of it and you can go back to you're not stuck. You're never really stuck, you know what I mean? You can get out of it and you could go. Like I've known guys who worked in the union for 25 years and then they got out of it and ended up opening up their own businesses after or running drain companies or going to work for somebody because they want to slow down in their life and not be in that pace of living anymore.
But is it frowned upon once you're in a union to leave or has that
I would imagine so. These union guys have big egos and, they walk around like, I'm in the local 727 God, they think they're God's gift to the world. So I would imagine that it is frowned upon leaving them. I don't know for
yeah, yeah.
sure, but I would imagine it is.
Well, because like you're in a club,
It's like a big
essentially.
club, man. Exactly right. Exactly right. It's like when you see each other out in the streets. One's wearing a union shirt, and it's like, oh my god, that guy's. Oh my god, hey, that's my brother from the union. It's like it's not for me. Not for me. That's all I could
Right.
say. I don't
Well,
want to be in that club.
that's for young, people who are looking to get into this trade, but maybe want to take advantage of some of the things that you talked about that are positive about being in a union.
Hundred
So
percent.
let's let's look at now. Tell us about some of the most like coolest or like interesting problems that you've had to solve when a customer calls you to house and it could be anything from like a leak or like something else. But like, what are some of the most interesting stories you can think of like a problem that you guys had to figure out and you were able to solve it?
God, there's so many. That's the thing. Cross connections. Those are some of the toughest calls in the world.
So
They could
explain
take
what that
days.
is.
That's when you are opening up the best way I could describe it is you open up a faucet, it's cold water. And then all of a sudden you get hot water and then cold water and then hot water and then cold water and you can't understand why this is happening. So something somewhere in your house is mixing. It's
Mm,
mixing hot and cold. mixing hot and cold, and that you could be on those calls for sometimes a day or 2 trying to figure out where it's happening because it could be happening in a faucet somewhere on the other side of the house that has no relevance to what you're where the problem is. You know what I mean?
Because it's
Those are some of the
connected at
calls
some
that drive
level.
me crazy. What's
And
that?
because it's connected at some level,
It's yep, everything's
it's
connected
causing the
together
yeah,
in a plumbing system. So it
right.
causes like we were doing one once. I was at a Jewish lady's house, and in really religious Jewish homes, they have 2 kitchens. Okay, they have the regular kitchen, then they have the kosher kitchen, and
Mm.
they're almost identical kitchens. Everything's the same. So she was getting a mix in her faucet in the kitchen. It would start off lukewarm, then it would come scalding hot, and then it would get really cold all within 30 seconds. And trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Do we have a bad cartridge? Do we have this? Do we have that? Looking for hours and hours and hours, going in the basement, feeling pipes to see where it's mixing. Like, is it mixing here? Is it mixing here? It was a bad cartridge on a shower valve on the other side of the house that was causing that problem in the kitchen. You know,
Oh,
that's
okay.
where you run into it, and experience makes you look at things like that. But when you're inexperienced in a situation like that, it could take hours, if not a day or 2 to solve an issue like that.
Now can it be fun, kinda like being a detective for a day where there's a problem and you gotta challenge yourself to see if you crack the code and figure it out?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it is, and then there's a sense of it's a good feeling when you do figure it out. You're like, "Oh," and then stuff starts to make sense in your head. You're like, "Oh, man, why didn't I think of that in the what the hell? Why didn't I think of that in the beginning?" You
Right,
know what I
right.
mean? What's not fun is when you can't figure it out within that time span, and then you have your boss breathing down your neck. You know, "Oh, Jesus Christ, I got you pay this, I'm not paying you to go back out there, stuff like that. That's what's the not so fun part of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because every time you go out, you gotta get paid, but you didn't solve the problem yet, so you're not getting paid. The company's not getting paid yet.
The company's not getting paid yet, and when you work for a company, that's bottom line is the bottom dollar. That's how it goes.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's how it
Um
goes.
So you get to see, which is cool because you do a lot of residential. So you go to people's homes, you get to see a lot of like the ways that different people live. You get to probably
Oh
have
yeah.
some cool interactions, meeting people and getting to see all walks of life, like you said, and tell like one or two really cool stories or funny stories about experiences that you had that you like, it just made you appreciate the job.
Oh man, yeah. I'll tell you one that really got me. I was doing a job, okay, for this Middle Eastern family, okay, and we had to replace a bunch of drain pipe. And as I'm working, the old lady comes downstairs. I guess it was a grandmother, mother, father, son, whole family. Comes downstairs and she tells me to stop working. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So she goes, come upstairs. I said, okay. So I went upstairs. I'm with my helper at the time. And I walk in and their family sitting down in the kitchen. Okay. And they have this absolutely giant spread of food on the table. Okay. And I'm sitting there like, what's going on right now? And they were like, please sit down and eat with us. I was like, I don't know if I could do that. I'm working, but they insisted, that's their culture. Where they come from, when somebody comes to help them, to do something for them, they feed you. So that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? You get a lot of that. Like people, they invite you into their culture. You know what I mean? We sat down, and I'll tell you what. Besides one person that spoke English, nobody else spoke English at that table. But we all sat down and broke bread together, and it was a great experience. And then you get the not so good experiences, like
Well, for this first one, how was the food?
oh, it was excellent, man. It's
Yeah,
excellent.
and
Well, it's
what type
different
of
than the
food
way
was it?
we do. Oh, they had eggs and all kinds of fruit and all kinds of. There was just a spread of so many different things. You know, this was years ago, man, and their culture food. Whatever they make, and I think they were Iraqi. The family,
Okay.
they were an
And
Iraqi
so
family.
has doing this job sort of made you like appreciate all different cultures and learn a little bit more about other types of people and how they live and what's that like?
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely, like, I never knew that in other cultures, when somebody goes to their home to do something that they it's required, it's like in their culture, it's like a requirement. You take care of the people who come to your home and do stuff for you, you know? And, it's pretty cool. It's like, wow, man, I never knew it was like that. Because most times you go into houses and people, they don't even want you there from the moment you're in their house. They want you out of their house already. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, "Oh, I want you here, fix this, get the hell out. I'm done with you." Like, these people it does. It definitely gives you a new appreciation of
yeah,
stuff, you
because
know? You look at the world a little bit different.
yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, you're gonna in this every trade, every industry, you're gonna get people who are like not great, and they all they see is how much money they're paying you, so they want you in and out as quick as possible. And then there are other people that just appreciate what service you offer, and they welcome you in and treat you like a guest more than a hired person.
100%. And it's and not to generalize or anything like that, but it's usually the lower income families that, they don't have much, but they tend to appreciate you the most. Like, those are the people you're gonna usually get a tip from, get a cup of coffee from. Can I make you a sandwich? Can I get you something? Do you want a snack? Like, those are the ones. You go into a multi-million-dollar home, and those people are better than you. Everybody knows it. So that's how they treat you most of the time. I can't say everyone's like that because they're not.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? There's a lot of good people out there,
yeah. Of
but
course, yeah. No, but it's yeah, it's true, and it's good because just sort of like you would expect the people who have the money, not always, but some people do, to be the big tippers, and I'm sure sometimes they are. But then you would also maybe not expect the people who don't have it to sort of either not tip at all or just wash over it. And sometimes those are some of the best tips.
100%, 100%. I did a couple weeks ago. I'm doing a job at a lady's house, middle class woman, maybe a little nice lady, single mom, couple of kids, and I go to my truck to get something. No, I'm sorry. I go to the supply house because I had to go pick up a couple parts at the supply house. So I'm driving to the supply house. I come back. I go down into the basement. She ordered me a pizza from Domino's, and she had it sitting right over in the work area. And she goes, "I got you lunch, by the way." I wasn't expecting it, but it was nice, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice.
It is nice.
Um,
It is nice.
so yeah, and
Doesn't
also too,
happen
like
all the time, but it's nice when it does happen.
yeah. And also too, you slipped in a very important thing is that sometimes people do tip you, so you're also making that on top of your salary.
That's right. That's right. And usually when you get a tip, usually it's like a 50 or above, you know what I mean? It's like, very rarely you get like a $10 tip in plumbing.
Well, you're not serving a cup of coffee, you're doing a big job that's gonna fix a problem that they're having where everybody needs plumbing to work. You can go
But it is cute though, because
yeah, you can go like a few
every once
days
in a
with,
while you'll get a
yeah,
no, I'm saying every once in a while you'll get an old person who'll give you like 3 or $4 and say, "Here you go, kid, go get yourself a cup of coffee." You know what I mean?
well, if they're
And
living on a fixed
it means
income,
the
yeah.
world to them to give you that.
Yeah, 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 of course. So then the other story that you were gonna get into was a time that's maybe not so good?
Oh god, we get a call, okay? There was this, I believe it was a burst pipe. It was a wintertime, and we get to the house. Okay, it was me and my old boss, and there's just this like horrific smell. And we're like, what the hell is that smell? It's like, it's crazy. The reason why the call came in, it was a condo complex, and there was water coming out of the lady's front door. So somebody walked by and saw water coming out. Like, that's not normal. So they called. So we get out there
See, she wasn't
and
even home.
oh no, here's this. She was more than home. Um,
Oh,
yeah, oh, it's horrific, man. Terrible, terrible, terrible. So we get there. No one's answering the door. No one's answering the door. So we call the association and they send over one of the maintenance guys, and one of the maintenance guys opens the door. Right? We go inside. There's just all these flies everywhere. What the hell's going on? We walk. There she is, laying on the bed, dead. Old lady, I would say probably in her 70s or 80s, curled up in a ball on the bed. It was, I don't want to get into detail or graphic, but it was pretty terrible sight to see. And it's something that I could still to this day smell in my nose. You know what I mean?
Did,
And
so in that situation, well, first of all, did it look like, foul play, or did it just look like she had a heart attack or something?
no, she was a little old lady, she lived alone, and it looked like the position she was laying in looked like she was almost trying to get comfortable. She didn't feel good. She was in the fetal position, curled up in a ball,
Mm,
laying in bed with a blanket over her, and it looks like she just passed away like that.
oh, okay, alright. And then
The
in that
sad thing
situation,
is
yeah.
the sad thing is that she was gone for like 4 or 5 months. You know, her body was already starting to decompose.
So she was dead for so long that it took everybody that long to find her?
That's what got me the most upset because I was like, "Well, does she have no family? Like, what is how did not any of her neighbors go and check on her? Like, I haven't seen this
Wow.
lady in a month and a half. Maybe I should go knock on her door and see if she's okay, you know?
Or give her a phone call or something.
Give her a f But how do you not even, like, us walking up the walkway, like, going towards that condo unit, you could smell it from the outside. How does someone not smell that? I don't know. It's just there's some very unpleasant sights that you see
Yeah.
doing this.
And then in that situation, what do? You just call the cops and wait for them to come and then fix the pipe and leave, or how's that work?
Well, what happened was the condo association at that point took over. So they ended up calling the cops. And then we ended up leaving. We didn't even we shut the water off to the unit, but we ended up going. They didn't
Mm.
want the pipe fixed at that time. They had cleanup they had to do, stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
it was
So
out
you
of
do,
our
you see
hands
a
at that
lot of
point.
different interesting things in this job.
You see the cleanest households in the world where they want you to wear booties and put gloves on, and, hey, that's not a problem, we keep a pair in our pocket all the time. Then you see other households that you walk through the front door and there's 6.5 inches of dust on the floor, and there's a stench. We call it in the fields housetosis, it's called. You just people who don't clean and they live filthy, you know what I
Okay.
mean? It's just, oh boy,
Yeah.
it's
And
unbelievable.
so you said you've been doing this for over, about 10 years now. Would you say you still love it? Or you losing interest, or you're, like excited for your future? Like, what's your outlook?
Oh, totally love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I wouldn't change anything about it. I mean, yeah, you're in situations sometimes where you work for a company or you work for somebody and oh, I hate this and I hate that. And you know what? And it just only motivates you to just make your own moves. You know, there's plenty of opportunity in this trade that if you are unhappy somewhere where you work and you're not loving it, you could always go out on your own and do your own thing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You're not tied down to being somewhere for your entire career. And I love my job. I love dealing with people. I love interacting. I love solving problems. And I love getting younger generation into it. Like whenever I go to a house and I see like a 16-year-old, I'm like, go to trade school. Go to
Mm,
trade school.
that's
Stay
good.
out of college. Go to trade school. Go to trade school, man. We need plumbers. We need plumbers, you know?
Yeah, and that's such a good point because that's what I'm, kinda doing with this little series of talking with, different people in different trades. Is my goal is to, inspire the younger generation, because college is not for everybody. And you're starting to see on the market the younger generation, a percentage of them is finally stopping going from high school straight to college and instead exploring other options.
I think it's
There's
important.
Yeah. And would you say, because I know pretty much the data on this, but would you say from your experience, how's the supply demand for plumbers out there right now?
There's always going to be work.
Yeah, but um would you say that there is like the industry is starving for plumbers, or it's doing good but it could use some more, or it's actually
No,
there's
right
too many
now,
plumbers?
we definitely need plumbers. We're low compared to
Mhm.
compared to where we used to be 30 years ago and where we are now. It's totally a dying trade.
Yeah. And what
Totally a dying trade.
would you say it's a dying trade, meaning that the trade itself is going away, or just not enough people are getting into it?
Not enough people are getting into it.
Yeah, like it's not going anywhere. We still need
No, no, it's
plumbers.
never going anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's just getting this new generation of people into it and trying to keep it alive and keep it going. It's difficult, man, because everyone associates plumbing with shit. They're like, oh, I don't want to be touching shit my whole life, and it's like there's so much more to it than just that. You know what I mean? You could go your whole career without ever touching shit once. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said before, if you do new construction, that's a perfect example.
Exactly. You know, new construction, even if you do residential, you don't have to necessarily touch it. You don't have to snake drains if you don't want to. You know what I mean? It's like they just not seeing the bigger picture. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
They seeing the bigger picture is that you have a job that you're guaranteed to always have. You know what I mean? AI can't take it, a robot can't take it, it
Hmm.
can't get shipped overseas. You're gonna always have that. Once you get that license and you maintain it, you know, you pay for it every year, you go to your continuing education, they can never take it away from you. You're always gonna be guaranteed a job somewhere. Someone's
Yeah.
gonna need to flush a toilet somewhere,
Yeah. And that's such a good
you
point
know?
because a couple things with that is number one, like you said, which I touched on this in previous episodes, your there's a low likelihood you're going to replace the plumber with technology. You might
Oh,
add
100%.
to their job, like you have mechanical snakes, you have scopes that are able to go in with a camera and see the inside of a plumbing line. You
Oh,
have,
yeah.
different types of like, trucks like, jets that come in with a water jet and they, clean out a line and stuff like that. But you're not really going to be able to replace a plumber entirely for what they do with technology. It doesn't matter if it's AI, robotics, whatever. There's just too many different complicated systems that you guys work on that it would take probably decades for technology to even catch up with a plumber, right? Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. It's not like you could just program a robot to just go and like, "Hey, go fix this." You know, you it takes you gotta go and train and do it and get your hands in it every single day, you know what I mean? I'm still learning. I've been a plumber for 15 years, and I am still learning. I've been licensed for 10 of those 15 years, but
right, right.
it's so I've been a plumber for 10 years, excuse
Yeah,
me.
technically, yeah,
I've been in the plumbing trade for 15 years, and, I'm
right.
still learning every day. Still learning every day.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
There's
it's
just
it's
there's
it's a
just
good point.
so much.
It's a good point. Yeah, and also, not everything is the same. It's not like cookie cutter where, every pipe is the same, every job is the same, every house is designed with the exact same layout for plumbing, for the skeleton and stuff. So it's like
Oh, yeah.
there's no way a robot would be able to figure out how to work on each individual house to solve each individual problem.
100%. I mean, if everything was set up in a world like Edward Scissorhands, where all the houses are the same, everything's the same, you know, everything exactly all the piping in the world is ran exactly the same. Maybe they could come in at that point and do something, but not the case, man.
Yeah. So the good thing
One
is
thing
there's
I
job
could guarantee
security.
is that they're not gonna take our job. They're not gonna take
Yeah.
our jobs.
Yeah, the good thing is there's job security there.
100%. Not most places you don't have job security, you know what I mean? And no, I can't say most places because there's a lot of places you have job security, but this is guaranteed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if I get, knock on wood, fired tomorrow from the company I work with, I could go knock on people's doors and start saying, "Hey, listen, I'm a local plumber in town. Keep me in mind." I can go put an ad down at the post office with my number on it and say, "Call me," or I can go to the Facebook. Look at me, put an ad down at the post office like we're in the 1930s. I could go on Facebook, stuff like that. You know what I mean? And advertise a little bit and say, You're guaranteed to have work always, always,
Yeah.
always."
Yeah.
You
No, it's
know,
great.
that's
It's
one of the
it's a good
best things
point.
about the trade.
Yeah, because it touches on that whole supply and demand thing that there's a low supply right now of plumbers and especially young people coming out of high school going into that trade, but there's still like such a huge demand for it. So there's job security and there's also so much opportunity, so much work that you're bound to be able to land a job somewhere or even
Oh
just
yeah,
start your own business.
guaranteed. I mean, you go to school. You go to trade school, you decide you want to get into the plumbing trade, it's not hard to find a job. Not hard at all. You can almost guaranteed walk into a company and say, I want to be a plumber, I want to be an apprentice, and they'll hire you right away.
Yeah. And another thing too that's really cool is that it doesn't matter. It's one of those things that's like it blankets across everything. Like it doesn't matter if it's a home or an office building or a mansion and you're rich or low income housing and you're poor. Everybody needs plumbers. Everybody has toilets and sinks. Like there's you're able. There's so much opportunity out there.
You're cutting out there. I lost you there.
Yeah, I was just saying there's so much opportunity out there.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Like, I'm gonna tell a quick story about when I was an apprentice and I worked for this guy, Bill. Billy Perleone, man, one of my favorite people in the world. He brought me into Hartford, which is a city in Connecticut, and, he just goes, "Look at all these buildings, man." He goes, "Every single one of them, every room, every floor has a toilet. Every room, every floor has a faucet." He goes, "You're always gonna be working. You're always gonna be working." So, that's it. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling going to bed at night knowing that, "Oh god, I might," you know, whereas the not to generalize or to pick one person, but a banker goes to work, they lose their job, they could be out of work for months and months and months and collecting on them, but you know what I mean? Not that I'm
And
shitting
it's
on bankers,
happened
so I don't want
several
anyone to think
times
that.
throughout the last few decades with bankers
It's crazy,
specifically.
you know? And, we just don't have that problem, you know? You may be laid off in the wintertime if things get slow for a few months, but yeah, guess what? Lay off, you collecting a little bit and you get some time off. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, but you can't say that level of job security exists with other careers that seem more desirable sometimes. Like a lot of young people, maybe not today, but back in the day, they used to want to get into the stock market, into that whole, finance industry or banking or something. And there have been so many times throughout history, especially within the last 3 decades, where those careers have people have been laid off for months on end, or their job just completely went obsolete and it doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't happen with
100%.
plumbing.
No, it doesn't. No, it
Yeah, it
doesn't.
doesn't
Like I
matter if
said, the
there's a
worst thing that'll happen is you'll get laid off. 'Cause you lay off for a winter because it gets slow in the wintertime sometimes. They'll lay you off for a few months, and then they rehire you again in when times get good. That's one of the worst things that could happen in the trade. You get fired if you screw up, obviously, but that goes without saying anywhere you work. You know what I mean? But even if you get fired from a job for screwing around or doing something stupid, you go walk into the next business right next door and they'll hire you.
yeah.
It's the way it is in this field.
So what would you say some of your like maybe top 2 or 3 things that you love about this industry and career as a whole? It doesn't just have to be like, jobs that you've done or things, just like in general, like what do you love about it?
I love the brotherhood, man. You know what I mean? When you just there's a certain respect, like when you're a plumber and you see another plumber, you always wave. You know what I mean? When you see each other at the supply house, and if you're an apprentice and you see a licensed guy there, you always respect the licensed guy. You know what I mean? Even if they're not, I love the brotherhood. I love the bond.
So it's like a sense of community.
And it's a sense of community, man. And it's like you all hold that license together. Yeah, we argue on the groups and we all BS with each other and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it really is. It's like a brotherhood. It's like a bond, man. You know what I mean? We're all license holders, and like I said, we don't look at each other like competition either. So I'll be driving down the road. I see another plumbing company driving past me. I always wave. It's a respect thing. You wave. Hey, how you doing, man?
Is that
Plenty of
because
work
there's
out here
just
for the
so
both
much
of us.
work out there?
That's it. That's exactly right. There's plenty of work for everybody, but that's definitely and the trade shows. I love the trade shows. Trade shows is where you go and companies that you buy your product from are always trying to sell you new stuff, and they throw these big shows and they have all this food and all this stuff, really fun stuff in this trade, and I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Nice.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, so I want to
absolutely, man.
wrap up with just maybe one or two more things, but definitely this one. For the younger generation, Gen Z, that's getting out of high school now and getting into college, or maybe they're in college now and they're not crazy about what they're doing for their educational career, where it's leading them in their career life. Maybe they want to change careers or they're not sure what they want to do. What advice would you give to them as to, you know, maybe exploring, if not just plumbing, but any trade as an option, as an alternative to getting a college degree and going that route?
Well, they have programs like after high school that you could go on these like exploratory programs and you could work each trade for a couple of weeks. Like if you do 2 weeks of HVAC, 2 weeks of plumbing, 2 weeks of this, 2 weeks of that, and you get to kind of get an idea. Like maybe I don't have to go the college route. Maybe I could, do one of these trades. You
Do
know,
you know what that's called?
I don't off the top of my head right now, but I know that the kid that works with me now, he went to a program like that. It was an out-of-state program though, so he left Connecticut and he went to Michigan. And he did this exploratory program where he did like 2 weeks of construction. 2 weeks of framing, 2 weeks of plumbing, 2 weeks of HVAC, 2 weeks of electrical, and he ended up loving plumbing, so he picked plumbing. So I'm not exactly sure what the programs are called, but they are out there, and
So
that's something that I think kids should definitely look into.
that's really, really great advice because it's not just focused on we're talking about plumbing today. It's a way for them to say if they're coming out of high school and they don't want to go right to college or they're just not feeling going into like, you know, college or, some degree and maybe something that they might use in life, or even if they want to postpone that and do this in between, this is a great way for them to just go out there and do like a quick trial run of each different career and see if they take to
Absolutely,
something.
and it's like it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to go to college, and I also think, and I don't know if this is ever gonna change, but they need to push it more in classroom. You know, they need to tell these kids, like, when I was going to school, personally, it was college, 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 college. No one pushed trade schools on us. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Push trade schools on these kids. Push it.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, you're right. Oh, I think that advice is great about the trial run. That's really cool. So like an exploratory program for the trades. If I can
And
find out what
they're
that
out
is, I'm
there.
going to
They
share with
do
you.
exist. Oh, definitely, definitely.
And is this something you think probably exists like nationwide?
Yes, absolutely,
Cool. That's
absolutely,
great advice. That's great advice
absolutely.
for the younger people.
It's the best piece of advice I could give the younger people is like, just take your time. You don't have to rush. You know what I mean? Go look, explore things, see things. Maybe you're 17 years old, you graduated high school, you don't really know if you wanna go to college, you don't really know what you wanna do in your life. Why don't you go to your local plumbing company, knock on the door and say, "Hey, can I work for you for the summer?" Or go to your local electrician company and knock on the door and say, "Hey, can I work for you for a summer? I'm not really sure that I wanna go to college and I wanna, maybe try and do something different." I guarantee you they're gonna take you and say, "Come on, come work for us for the summer, kid."
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah, no,
mean?
no, that's great advice.
You
And
don't
like you
have to.
said, like we
There's
feel like we've been talking about, the trades are really hurting. They need people. Anybody could do that. They could just go out there and knock on doors and say, "Give me 6 months, let me work with you and see if this is something for me."
it's an old school way of doing things, but it still exists today with us, you know? And my boss
Yeah,
personally, I'll tell you right now, if somebody came to our shop, knocked on the door, walked in and said, "Hey, I would like to work here for a summer or for a few months," my boss would hire them on the fucking spot. He'd say, "Let's go. You wanna start
yeah.
tomorrow?"
Yeah, see,
To
that's
him,
that's so
that's
good
hunger.
because I feel like too, the younger generation needs to hear that because they're so programmed to believe there's like a systematic plan for life. Like it's a routine thing everybody does. You go to high school, you graduate, you go to college. You go through 4 years of college, you get your degree, you go get a job. And then everything is like this like, one way path that everybody's on the same one. And this is how everybody does it. Nobody deviates from the plan. I like some of the advice that you're giving today because it's showing the younger generation there are other ways to do things.
100%, man. 100%.
So
Yes,
my
there is.
last question would be for a new plumber, somebody who maybe just got into the trade now. They're young, they're out of high school, they're either in plumbing school or they're, an apprentice and they're in the process of going to plumbing school. So they're really new to the trade. What's the best advice you can give them to have a long standing good career in this industry?
Oh, man, the best advice I can give you is be a sponge. Absorb everything. Okay? And listen to the old timers when they talk, because 'cause you're gonna learn a lot from those guys, and keep your mouth shut, Keep your mouth shut and your ears open, and there's a lot to be learned, you know what I mean? There's a lot to learn, man. The best advice I can give you is get in there and work hard. Work hard, listen, and that's the best advice I can give you is head up, mouth closed, ears open, and you will have a good career. Ask questions, obviously. I'm not talking, "Oh, you're not allowed to speak ever," but just listen to the old timers, listen to the guys that have been out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll
Be a
spend more
sponge,
time
absorb
listening than
everything you
talking, I
can.
guess, right?
Yeah, more listening than talking. More listening than talking. I've had apprentices who jump in and they try and overtalk me. It's like, "No, you ain't gonna last. Get out of here."
And then what do you say? Like, do you have any resources that you go to? Maybe stuff on the internet or, certain people that are maybe have like the followings that are like plumbers or in the trades. Do you have anybody that you turn to that you would say, "Hey, a younger person might wanna take a look at this as, like, a little sneak
Oh
peek
God,
into
yeah,
this
man.
career?"
Absolutely. I follow this one guy. His name is the Boston Plumbing Monster. I love him. I love him. If you want to think about going into plumbing, watch a few of this guy's videos, okay? And you'll probably become a plumber the next day. He just makes it so fun. You know what I mean? There's plenty of groups on Facebook, there's plenty of groups on social media, and I'm part of so many different plumbing groups, and it's I love it, man. You know, it's a great way to get out there and network with people, socialize and see what else is out there. You know, look into these guys, look into these groups. You know, it may change your mind about wanting to get into it.
Yeah. So what would you say, final, word of whatever, wisdom, advice, anything left for this that you wanna say to the younger generation, maybe looking to get into plumbing or any trade or anything at all? What final comments?
My final comments is honestly, college, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to go that route. I was not a school guy. I was not a college guy. It just wasn't for me. And there's other options out there. And being in the trades is you're gonna have a good life. You know,
And one
if
last
you
thing
work hard,
sorry, go ahead.
what's that?
No, you
I said
finish.
if you work hard, you'll be all right. You could do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. One last thing, salaries, what do they look like in this industry? Obviously, you don't have to disclose yours, but like in general, being like an apprentice and then going to being a plumber, a master plumber, what does that type of salary structure look like typically across the board?
So as an apprentice, you make shit money, obviously, you know what I mean? You do all right. You start off whatever, I guess the company starts you off at, and then the state allows your company to give you one raise a year. So you get one raise a year as an apprentice, but then by the time you're in your fourth year apprenticeship, going to get your license as a licensed plumber, you're gonna start anywhere from 30 to $45 an hour,
That's good.
depending on where you are in the country, and also a big depend on who you work for. Okay. Um, and you could go up from anywhere from 30 to $45 an hour, $100,000 a year. You can make up to 250, $300,000 a year. It all depends. It all depends on how hard you're willing to work and knowledge, how much knowledge you're willing to put in your brain. You know what I mean? You could just be a basic plumber and make $30 an hour your whole life, or you could be an extraordinary plumber and you can make $100 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's so
You
much
know,
room there, and it just goes to show you because a lot of people go to college to obtain degrees, and they come out with the mindset of, "I wanna be making 100 grand a year." Well, it's totally possible in this industry to make 3 times
100%,
that,
100%, 100%. Easy to make 3 times that. You know what I mean? It all boils down to how hard you work.
and that's
You
without
know what I
owning
mean?
your own company, that's as an employed plumber.
As an employed plumber, that's without your own company. I know guys that are working for companies making 250, 300K a year,
That's amazing.
and they don't have all the headaches of running their own business, and they live very good lives. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's absolutely 100% possible, and now probably more than ever because there's such a shortage of tradespeople. You know what I mean? So definitely something to look into. Not saying plumbing, you can go into any trade. Don't be a sparky. No one likes an electrician, but I'm just joking.
We'll maybe get into that in another episode where we talk about some of the infighting between the different trades. Not really like infighting, but just like the differences, how there always seems to be this competition level between
Yeah.
the different trades of HVAC and plumbing and electrical and stuff like that. And everybody's always competing as to who's the best or most dominant trade. But we could save that for maybe
Well,
another episode if we revisit this.
I would love to, I'd love to revisit it another time, man. But I will say this: my final thought of the whole night, plumbing is the elite trade. That's all I have to say. We run the job sites, we run the show. That's just
And
how it
why
goes.
is that?
Because we're plumbers. That's just the way it goes.
But would you say that plumbing is elite amongst the trades because it's one of the most complicated to do, or is it because it's so foundational that without plumbing all the other stuff is irrelevant? Like what would you say makes plumbing such a dominant trade compared to the others?
A little bit of both. I mean, hey, man, we closed systems, you know what I mean? We stopped the world from all kinds of disease and plagues going on, you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
hey, I don't know an electrician that stopped any plagues.
Where were you guys during COVID?
Yeah, where are
No,
you
but
guys
that's
during COVID, you know?
yeah, right. No, but that's good.
That's
So
funny, man.
we'll wrap this up now. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for talking about plumbing.
Yeah,
Thanks for, hopefully inspiring the younger generation, Gen Z, to consider this as a career option. And then even that other great idea of just maybe exploring multiple trades in a short window of time to see if they could figure out what they want
absolutely.
to do. So all great advice. Thanks for coming on. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, thanks, Anthony Volpe. Thanks for joining us. All right, so that was our first guest appearance, first episode having a guest on the podcast. I did tell you our goal was to get guests on before the end of this year. So we actually accomplished that goal, which is great. Hopefully you liked the episode. Hopefully you got a lot of information that, if you're somebody that's young, that's like we said several times, coming out of high school, or maybe you're in high school and you're planning ahead for your future and you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your career life. A lot of younger people, I think, today are realizing not everybody needs to go to college. And this episode was not intended to, discourage people from going to college, because college is necessary for some people. It's necessary for if you're going to become a doctor or a lawyer, or, maybe get into business at a corporate level and get a business degree, and so many other different types of careers that are out there. You do need college, but college is not what it used to be anymore. It's not necessary for everybody. And there's a lot of trades out there that definitely are in need of people to fill those positions. And not everybody's going to be able to be a crypto millionaire, or get into the AI industry, get into robotics, and, different, things that seem popular today that long term, 20 years, 30 years down the line, you have to think, will they be there? Will they look different? Will the industry change? And that's happened many times throughout history where, you know, a career field or an industry became popular for a while, and then market shifted, things changed, new technology came out and it, made that obsolete or made that industry completely look different. As I was saying before on the podcast, there was a time where a lot of people in the 80s, especially because of that whole era, really loved the idea of getting into the stock market, getting into the industry of securities trading. And a lot of people went and got their licenses and they became stockbrokers. And for a while, it was a really cool industry. It was a way, people were crowded on the floor of the stock market. And, just like you see in the 80s movies, Wall Street and things like that. It was a great industry. People made tons of money. You could be really young, get your license, and be, a millionaire by 21. But then, several years later in the early 90s, and then again in the 2000s after the dot-com boom, you had tons of people unemployed, out of work, that were in that industry, once making several $100,000 a year, were now unemployed. And I've actually watched that industry change, pretty much first, not firsthand, but close to it, where I knew people personally that made their career, that had children, had families, and then it completely went away. It was obsolete. Their entire position was no longer needed, and they had to go reinvent themselves in their mid 30s or mid 40s because the industry changed completely. Trades like plumbing and HVAC and electrical and things like that are stuff that are never really going to go away. We're always going to need those things to power our lives and to manage our day to day. And it does not seem like AI or robotics is going to really replace a lot of the tradesmen that do these things. It might change some, it might replace some tradesmen, and it might replace some of the types of jobs that they do, because now they have technology that can handle maybe one or two items, but it's not going to replace the tradesmen completely. We do, Anthony and I both believe that these career fields have longevity, job security, and might be a great, thing for you to explore if you're a young person trying to figure out what you want to do with your career life. So hopefully you like the episode. We're going to definitely try and do more episodes with guests in the future, more interviews, and then we might even have Anthony back on, um, you know, future episodes to do commentary and talk about different things outside of the plumbing world. So we'll see if that's something that, works out well and you guys, like it. We'll see how that all works out in the long run. If you like the episode, if you like the guest, if you like the fact that I had a guest on, and if you like the topic that we spoke about, put that in the comments. Definitely share this episode. If there's any young Gen Z people that that are maybe in this position, definitely share this episode with them to hopefully give them a little bit of, some ideas as to maybe help them on their journey. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And don't forget to stay for the ad at the end of the video. Take a look at some of the products that we have that are on sale now and start maybe ordering some stuff for the holidays. Well, that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody, I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son. And it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. We highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state, and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now, and like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early, and you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms, Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories. Available right now, many different items on our storefront. If you can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall, 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throw in your own, occasion, you can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned. But it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produced. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag, and it says free, and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two, and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post, and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future, and I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.